It's January 22nd, 2026, and winter is no longer knocking. It is currently barging in, and soon for many in the eastern US, it will be in our homes, as many will be left without power and a dangerous winter storm that is currently brewing. My name is Eric, and I'm a student meteorologist, and you're sitting in with me to get the latest data on the upcoming winter storm that has the whole nation on edge. I haven't uploaded in a while, but we're not going to go over that. We're just going to jump right into the data, and happy to be back doing that. So this isn't just a snow event, this is also a snow and ice event, which makes it more dangerous, and the duration of time in which people in this event are going to be within subfreezing temperatures is also the main thing that makes this particularly dangerous. So what was an anomalous signal in the models about 4+ days ago has now turned into a forecast winter storm, a expected historic one at that. Models are all pretty heavily agreeing, and it's all coming together as we get closer. It is currently Thursday as I am filming this. This is expected to start pretty much like right at the beginning of Saturday. Pretty much right after midnight is if you want to count the official start of this, but many places are already going to be well below freezing, especially in the Midwest and Ohio Valley, even through late Friday. And then beyond that, snow is going to make its way through. Initial models were showing a trend slightly further south than what we're seeing now, but if you look here, you can see this is what we're dealing with, and we're pretty much looking at impacts from New Mexico through the Texas Panhandle, especially in the Missouri, Arkansas region, all the way up into the Ohio Valley and up to the northeast. And this will track all the way to the northeast through Tuesday. If you pay close attention to the time marker at the top of this model run here, you can see mixed precipitation is expected to start being produced at it will be 6 p.m. CST on Friday, so tomorrow, a day and 5 hours from now. And this is going to move further east, going up to midnight, and then we're already going to start seeing significant snow in Oklahoma and Arkansas and the higher plains. And then beyond that, this is just going to track, and it's going to be kind of a relatively slow-moving storm, very wide encompassing synoptic scale event, and the biggest issue, how long people will be in the sub-freezing cold for. And then you can see also there is probably going to be a bit of considerable convective activity with the low pressure system being driven by the trough, and there's a squall line there that might actually signal some potential severe thunderstorms in the along the Gulf Coast going into next week. That feature is actually new in this model, I'm just now noticing. So something that I think is important to highlight is a lot of weather channels tend to, and not just YouTube weather channels, but also just actual professional weather stations like the Weather Channel, tend to overpredict the amount of precipitation, the amount of snow that we're going to get with these events, because fear-mongering, I guess, or just clickbait, hype, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why exactly it is that they do that. Just recently, the Weather Channel had ridiculous totals for like northeast Texas. Some were showing like 12 inches of snow. That was about 2 days ago, and I thought, like, obviously that's absurd. Now, while that is a possibility, it's not, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not going to happen. Northeast Texas will see some snow, yes, but mostly mixed precipitation, and it's not till you get further up into the system in places like Oklahoma and Arkansas they're going to see actual snow. Everything else south of that will be mostly sleet and frozen rain. My theory is that these channels, they're hopping on every single data change that we see, which happens every few hours every day, and then they use that data point, which could look more extrapolated than what's really going to happen, or what most models show, to grab people's attention when it's not really going to play out that like that. And we had the recent snow event here in the southeast. The GFS was showing more snow than ended up actually occurring. The Euro model was more accurate, as it usually is with predicting snow and winter weather. Honestly, when you see the GFS doing stuff like that, just don't rely on it. It's really not great for winter weather. beyond just kind of it's better for that at looking at upper dynamics, but it's not good at considering all the factors for snow. It's known for that. A lot of channels were putting in their thumbnails, oh, there's going to be a ridiculous amount of snow across this whole region. There were local isolated spots that saw up to maybe 3 inches, and most of it was just mixed snow. And that's what the Euro model was showing. So something to just be weary of, be educated about when you're looking at weather data. Okay, so now that I have that context established, we're going to go ahead and dive right into the present system that we're talking about, and we're going to talk about what's driving it. That has everyone running to the grocery store, stockpiling, and flipping out all across most of the eastern half of the U.S. So the first data point you want to look at is temperature anomaly, which is how far deviated in this case the surface temperature is from the average of that time of the year. So this is today. This is what today looks like. This is the current analysis, roughly, a little bit past current analysis, and going into tonight. This is what the descent of that trough is going to look like, and then it's going to push its way well into the south. And this right here is 12 a.m. on Saturday, and that's about when we start seeing the snow really pick up, and then it pretty much just goes downhill from there. And then moving further past Saturday, this is Saturday, 12 p.m. Central Time, and you can see those temperature anomalies have this. In some areas in the center of that system, 20 to 30 degrees below the average, and even here in Southeast Texas, we're gonna be 12 to 16 degrees below average, and that's going to be the case for much of the Ohio Valley, the Central Plains, and then even the Gulf Coast will see pretty low values. And just to show you what those actual temperatures are going to be, so we're going to go from Thursday today, and then this is Friday, and that's when that descent of the trough starts. And then you can see we're pushing 20s nearly into the teens in places, into the southern plains. We're already in the negatives up in the Midwest, and now we're moving into Sunday, and you can see the teens and in the 20s are now pushing into Texas, and going into Monday, pretty much everywhere from the Ohio Valley to central Texas are going to be in dangerous sub-freezing temperatures from Saturday all the way until Tuesday, and that'll actually be 3 p.m. That'll be afternoon on Tuesday. We were not here in the deep south and in southeast Texas. We're not going to get relief from this until we're going to be about 30 hours sub-freezing here in Houston, and then even beyond Tuesday, you're going to see the Ohio Valley and the plains still in the teens. So this is a considerable amount of time to be in those freezing temperatures, and that has a dangerous effect on many different things. So especially places in the south that are not really equipped to deal with this kind of weather, you're going to see infrastructure failure, you're going to see power outages, you're going to see probably fatalities, because whenever we have these kinds of events, unfortunately, this happens, and you're going to see potentially other things like vegetation, some downed vegetation as well, especially up north where you're seeing like these critically low temperatures into the negatives throughout especially the beginning of this duration. There's a phenomenon known as freeze cracking, which is when trees literally explode because of the pressure from the freeze on the trees, and that can be dangerous and destructive. In the south, people are not going to want to be driving. School's likely going to be out. Places will be closed because no one down here really knows how to drive in this kind of weather. With the amount of energy that's going to be used to keep people's homes warm, power is likely going to go out in most places throughout the south with how long this is going to occur. So you need to make sure that you not only have your own house prepared where you can stay warm, and make sure you're stocked up on stuff, because grocery stores are likely already emptying out even now. It's probably something you should have already been preparing to do before even watching this video. You also need to check in on your more vulnerable family members, like, grandma, grandpa. Make sure that they're more sensitive perhaps to the cold, and maybe they're not fully aware of the scenario. So go check in on all your family. Make sure you have everything networked, and everyone is going to be safe to ride this out. because some people in a lot of places might actually be stuck because of the snow. And so you won't be able to really do anything about it once you are stuck. And then you're cold and it becomes a dangerous situation. Also, do not run your car while it is in the garage. Even if your garage door is open, if you're going to use your car to charge your electronics, if you don't have a generator, please do it outside. Because people in Houston during Winter Storm Uri in 2021 died from that. It wasn't even just the snow that killed people, it was other things. So just, I can't emphasize that enough. Looking at upper level dynamics, we're going to see what exactly it is that's steering this. So there's going to be a surface low and a mid-level trough associated with each other that move in from the southeast, which is going to tilt the Canadian trough here, which is that cold Arctic air, also being reinforced by surface high pressure that will funnel colder air at the surface. That southern trough here is what's causing this whole thing to tilt, and it's what's reinforcing that southern dip. And then alongside that cold Canadian trough is going to be bringing cold air from the north, and then that's going to collide with all the moist air here in the usual moist sector, and then that's what's going to allow for the great amount of precipitation that we're going to see. And since it's cold, it's going to snow, especially along this swath here. And most things through this sector are going to be freezing rain. Now, looking all the way into Tuesday, and this is going to be the general pattern we see consistent throughout most of it. Some places, like in the deep south in Texas, aren't going to be below freezing until well into Saturday, probably going into Sunday. But the furthest extent of that freeze line it shapes pretty much the coast. It keeps the panhandle of Florida, or the Florida Peninsula, out of the freeze. But I mean, this goes pretty far down. Yeah, this will be early Sunday when we start transitioning into subfreezing here in southeast Texas. By that point, the precipitation will have passed. But as it does that, we're all still going to be stuck in subfreezing all the way until Tuesday. And that leads us into the next rather important aspect: how much snow and how much ice are we going to get, and where is getting ice and where are we going to get snow. So this is looking at the total accumulation by 6 p.m. CST Tuesday. You can see that's a pretty decent amount of ice on the ground. And since by this point it's still going to be subfreezing in every spot that ice is going to be on the ground, you see in this graphic, it's going to stay. It's going to stay for a while. It's going to kill vegetation. It's going to damage plumbing. So make sure you cover your plumbing, and it's going to be unsafe. If you go outside for too long, you get frostbite. Can be potentially fatal. Not worth playing around with. With the general trend more northward here in southeast Texas, we're going to see now less accumulated ice on the ground. I'm expecting no more than 1/4 of an inch total at the maximum for us. The further north you go into northeast Texas, or you go up into Tyler and Dallas, you're going to see up to an inch and a half in some places of ice accumulated on the ground. And then as you go up into the Arklatex and Mississippi region, you're going to see up to 2 inches of ice, and this continues on into Tennessee and the southeast and North Carolina. And then alongside that, everywhere north of the iced over areas, we're going to have our snow. And with the ice already on the ground, that's going to allow snow to quickly accumulate. It's not going to just be melting at first when it comes down. It's going to have the assistance of that ice, and it's also going to make it take longer to melt, especially with how long we stay in subfreezing. Now, since a few hours ago, this has shifted a bit, actually further north and more northeast. Earlier, we had some pretty dense totals here, more in Arkansas and Oklahoma and southeast Missouri. We were expecting anywhere around 12 to 16 inches, but that's actually shifted further east into Illinois and Kentucky and Indiana. So expected in a very local area, 13 inches there in Kentucky, and then just that's pretty much going to be that main swath. So you're seeing 13 to 6 inches of snow throughout this region going into the Ohio Valley, and then Oklahoma and western Missouri, you're going to see 8 to 7 inches of snow. And then very northern Texas, the Texas Panhandle, you're going to see anywhere from 1 inch to 7 inches. It's going to just barely clip Dallas. Dallas, you're going to see a little bit of snow. Anywhere south of that in Texas, you're likely not seeing snow. You're going to see freezing rain, probably even just rain at some points, especially if the timing of when the precipitation moves in is faster and it hits before that freeze line makes it down further south into Texas. So if we want to take a look at the 6-hour total snowfall, before the event starts, you go 6 hours, 12 hours. So this is 6 a.m. on Saturday. And then you move into 12 p.m. on Saturday, and then further, you can see within a lot of places are going to have an accumulated about 4 inches of snow after 6 hours, which is roughly about half an inch an hour. Precisely, that'll be a little bit over half an inch an hour. So again, like not technically heavy snow rate, not a heavy snow rate, but you're still going to see overall snow totals, heavy snow, and it's considerable enough at this point. So overall, looking at these new models, we're seeing that the heavier snow, like I said, is going to shift more east, and there's going to be a swath of it that Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Maryland are going to actually see. That goes up to 13 inches. I wouldn't be surprised if local areas potentially get up to nearly 20, very localized spots. But the most likely scenario is at least 13 inches in a lot of these areas in a swath through the Ohio Valley. This frame right here is what the 24-hour snowfall will look like after a given point on 6 p.m. CST Sunday. So a lot of snow and a lot of ice for places that are not built to withstand ice and subfreezing temperatures for over a day-long period. Infrastructure in these areas are not built for this, and power outages are anticipated, which will make indoor temps drop dangerously low, and a lot of people end up underestimating how quickly that happens if they're left without AC for a good while. In these areas, particularly in the south where this ice is going to hit, you can expect a power outage. It's likely for you. If you live in a place along this swath of for certain places along the ice swath in the south, power outages are likely. And the snow swath north of that, if you live in a place where you think this doesn't usually happen this intensely or often, probably can anticipate a power outage because your infrastructure is likely not built for that. Kind of use your judgment on that based upon your experiences, what you know about where you live. I don't know, there's no exact dividing line where it's like, oh yeah, power outages down here and then, none up here. But that's not the case. It could be throughout this entire area, especially, this is considered the south right here, or actually Mason-Dixon line is right there. It's not definite. It's going to be transient, and in anywhere along this event, just probably anticipate pretty good possibility of power outage. I'm not super informed on infrastructure facts, but I know that where most of this is happening, it's not built to withstand this. We learned that lesson here in Texas with Winter Storm Uri in 2021, with power companies being greedy and taking advantage of the situation to make a profit. They intentionally shut down the grid, and some people died because of that. I think there were lawsuits over that as well. That one provided a really important lesson to people in the South whenever we have to deal with ice and snow. So to close, overall this is a really textbook setup, and it's kind of perfect just because of the way both moisture and cold air are being funneled by those pressure systems. You have the high pressure system funneling air clockwise southward, and then low pressure bringing that counterclockwise and colliding essentially with that, all in this trough here, which has cold air aloft. And then after a lot of precipitation passes, you'll have that freeze line going all the way down to the coast. In areas where there's mixed precipitation, right here, you're going to have warmer air aloft, but still freezing temperatures on the surface. So that's what's going to allow for the mixed precipitation. It's not going to be snow by the time it turns into precipitation and starts falling, but it will freeze upon hitting the ground. So once it hits certain layers as well. So a lot of it will fall actually as mixed freezing rain, and some of it's sleet along the line here. And to be honest, I'm glad that as time has gone on, the models have seen to it that us here in Southeast Texas, we're like right on the fringe of that, and we're probably not going to see a whole lot of ice. I really hope that stays the case. I just kind of don't want to deal with it. Snow is fun, but I don't know. People here get crazy when this happens, and then there's then the power goes out, and then since we have a home generator, that's fine, I guess. But then like cellular connectivity gets bad, and it's just not pleasant. So remember to be prepared. As it stands at the time this video will be uploaded, you probably actually should already be prepared. Past 2 days has been kind of most of that. Don't underestimate this event. It is dangerous. It is historic. It's going to be historic. And just keep yourself safe. I'll keep updating on this as needed if there are any big data changes. And then later I'll look further at outlooks for the rest of January going into February. Take care, stay safe, and remember, you are the storm. See you later.